As you are no doubt aware by now, Count Dankula has been tried and convicted of a hate crime in my own blessed country of the United Kingdom, more specifically Scotland. And the media reporting on the incident is shoddy at best, at least in the BBC's terms, with their article, "Man Guilty of Hate Crime for Filming Pug's Nazi Salutes." A man who filmed a pet dog giving Nazi salutes before putting the footage on YouTube has been convicted of committing a hate crime. Mark Meakin, 30, recorded his girlfriend's pug, Buddha, responding to the statements such as "gas the Jews" and "Sieg Heil" by raising its paw. But police were alerted and he was arrested for allegedly committing a hate crime. He obviously committed a hate crime. The original clip had been viewed more than 3 million times on YouTube. Meakin of Coatbridge, Lanarkshire, fucking Scots, went on trial at Airdrie Sheriff Court, where he denied any wrongdoing. He insisted he made the video, which was posted in April 2016 to annoy his girlfriend Suzanne Kelly, 29. But Sheriff Derek O'Carroll found him guilty of a charge under the Communications Act, that he posted a video on social media and YouTube which was grossly offensive because it was anti-Semitic and racist in nature, and was aggravated by religious prejudice. It certainly was anti-Semitic and racist in nature if the whole butt of the joke is Nazis. But as we have seen, intent or context don't matter. It was aggravated by religious prejudice. He's joking about Nazis, like of course it's going to be. Sheriff O'Carroll told the court he did not believe Meakin had made the video only to annoy his girlfriend, and ruled it was anti-Semitic. Why? This picture they put up as well of Dankula with all his tattoos out and looking like a bit mental, let's be fair. Like, just there are lots of better pictures out there for BBC. Why'd you have to choose this one? He also said he believed Meakin, who was supported at court by Tommy Robinson, former leader of far-right group the English Defence League, left the video on YouTube to drive traffic to other material he had on there. Wait, what? Firstly, you're guilt by association with the Tommy Robinson thing, even though I think being supported by Tommy Robinson isn't bad in any way, because he is a champion of free speech, unfortunately. And he didn't leave the video on YouTube. Well, I'm so confused by this. He believed Meakin left the video on YouTube to drive traffic to other material he had on there. Of course he did. He got 3 million views. What? How is that a bad thing? He added, "In my view, it is a reasonable conclusion that the video is grossly offensive." Correct. The description of the video as humorous is no magic wand. This court has taken the freedom of expression into consideration, but the right to freedom of expression also comes with responsibilities. Yes, but that doesn't mean that the government should punish people if they choose to be irresponsible with their words. The man lost like 9 jobs or something since this whole thing happened. Like, that is so stupid. Sheriff O'Carroll said Meakin was quite obviously an intelligent and articulate man. Well, maybe in Scottish terms, yeah. But he added, the accused knew that the material was offensive and knew why it was offensive. Oh yeah, he's intelligent. Despite that the accused made a video containing anti-Semitic content, it was anti-Nazi, for God's sake. He would have known it was grossly offensive to many Jewish people. It was also probably more offensive to Nazis, to be honest, but hey-ho. Ross Brown, defending, said Meakin had only intended the video to be seen by a small group of friends and to annoy his girlfriend. He said the material had been leaked and gone viral, but Police Scotland then wrongly pursued Meakin despite their later videos attempting to set the record straight. Mr. Brown said his girlfriend testified that Mr. Meakin had never made known to her any anti-Semitic views whatsoever, or anyone else, probably because he's not an anti-fucking Semite. The accused possesses both tolerant and liberal views. His girlfriend is in no doubt it was an example of his sense of humour. Mr. Brown told the court it was wrong to focus on the phrase "gas the Jews" when it had been taken out of context of the whole video, which is true. He claimed Jewish comedian David Badiel I don't know how to say that, had voiced his support for Meekin and had asked him to walk free. He added, "I can see that the video may not be to everyone's taste. Others may be able to see the comedic or satirical element to it. The court should seek to acquit Mr. Meekin for no other reason but to show it is 2018 and not 1984. Good line." Prosecutors had earlier asked Meekin to be convicted and branded the video an odious criminal act that was dressed up to look like a joke. Well, it was a joke. Comedian Ricky Gervais took to Twitter to comment on the case after the verdict. He tweeted, "A man has been convicted in the UK court of making a joke that was deemed grossly offensive. If you don't believe in a person's right to say things that you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech," which is absolutely right. But one thing I absolutely have to point out about this is that when they mention that he's supported by Tommy Robinson, they go off and say he is a far right and he was the former leader of the far right group, the English Defence League, right? But all they say about David Baddiel is that he's Jewish and nothing else about him. Not that he's like a champion of anything else. They just say, "Oh yeah, by the way, this Jew's like supporting him." It's like not a whole sentence trying to like associate him with any other like tolerant liberal views from him. Nah, just he's Jewish, but he said it. And then as a comedian, Ricky Gervais, you may have heard of him. It's like it's just stupid. They're clearly trying to put guilt on the guy because he knows Tommy Robinson, and it's stupid, and the media always does this, and it has to bloody stop. That's about all I'm going to go through for stupid articles about the whole thing, but we'll move on to a decent article about it, and one that actually moves on beyond the court trial. From the Evening Standard, Yorkshire MP Philip Davis backs Ricky Gervais in freedom of speech row after YouTuber Count Dankula found guilty of making highly offensive video. So, Yorkshire MP Philip Davis has demanded a debate on freedom of speech after a man was found guilty of making grossly offensive video online. We shouldn't really be having a debate on freedom of speech, but that's the state we're in at the moment. Count Dankula, real name Mark Meekum, taught his girlfriend Pug to react to phrases such as "see Harlan gas the Jews" in a viral video. A self-described personal shitposter and free speech advocate, Meekum said the video had been taken out of context. I love how all these articles have to include that professional shitposter line. I fucking love Dankula so much. Speaking in the House of Commons, Mr. Davies said, "We guard our freedom of speech in this House very dearly indeed, but we don't often allow our constituents the same freedoms," which in this case is true. Recent court cases have put the whole issue of freedom of speech into the public domain. Ricky Gervais and David Baddiel have joined forces on the issue. Ricky Gervais said, "A man has been convicted in the UK court for making a joke that was deemed grossly offensive. If you don't believe in a person's right to say things you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech." Again, this is absolutely true. Can we have a debate about freedom of speech in this country, something this country has long held dear and is in danger of throwing away needlessly? Andrea Leadsom, Leader of the Commons, responded, "I absolutely commend Mr. Davis for raising this very important issue. Good on her. We do, of course, fully support freedom of speech. However, there are limits to it." No, there aren't. "And he will be aware there are laws around what you are allowed to say. And I don't know the circumstances of his specific point, but he may well wish to seek an adjournment debate to take this up directly with ministers." Well, he probably wants all laws limiting speech cut, as most people should want in this country. But I don't know, he might actually want to limit some things, which if he does, that's a shame. Meekum's video was watched more than 3 million times on the video sharing platform. He was arrested after sharing the footage in April 2016. Speaking after the verdict, he said, "There has been a huge miscarriage of justice. I think it is a very, very dark day in terms of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. One of the primary things that must be considered in cases like this is context and intent, and today context and intent were completely disregarded. For the system to disregard such things means that your actions no longer matter. They decide what your context and intent is, which is bloody terrifying. For all comedians making jokes in Britain, I'd be very, very worried about your future because in the context and intent, apparently they don't matter anymore." He also said, "Don't let your memes be dreams," but they refused to print that. I can't think why. He is due to be sentenced on April 23rd, and there is quite a large protest for it. I would suggest you look into it and join. The Liberalists fully support you, Count Dankula, if you ever watch this. And everyone else, please support him with us, because this is such a huge injustice. I just can't get my head around it. But Evening Standard, they don't need to mention Tommy Robinson. They don't need to mention any type of bad associations with Dankula. But, you know, this is a stand-up newspaper, really. So there you go. There's one more thing I want to go through before I finish up this video, and that's this opinion piece from The Guardian. Hate speech leads to violence. Why would liberals defend it? That is a ridiculous statement in itself, and I'm just going to let that go without comment because it is ridiculous. But there are 3 specific paragraphs that have really, really ground my gears. But it's the thin end of the wedge, we're told. If we start banning those whose views we don't like, what next? In general, one should be suspicious of what next arguments, because they assume that humans are incapable of behaving in calibrated ways that don't inevitably lead to some future state of fascism. Why is it every time speech has been limited that we end up in some sort of dictatorship then, you absolute buffoon? We could extend the right to platform and rally to all, but what next? Paedophile rallies? Yeah, that's fine. That's obviously absurd. No, it isn't. But it highlights the fact that there are limits, and they are broadly dictated by how much certain values are coded within society. The reason free speech proponents are not out there fighting to hear from child abusers or some radical Muslim clerics is because society or the law regulate the more unpalatable or illegal views away before we have to deal with them at Speaker's Corner, which is stupid. I don't think they should do that. I think we are out there fighting to hear child abusers' opinions or Muslim clerics' reasoning behind why they think Islam is the best thing ever. Because if it's out there, suddenly it's on the market of ideas. And when it's on the market of ideas, people can engage with the idea, tell these Muslim clerics or child abusers why what they're doing is wrong. But if they're just silenced, then they're not gonna think otherwise. They're just gonna think what they think's a kind of black marketplace of ideas. That's what you do. You make a black marketplace of ideas, and these black market ideas don't come into the conversation like these legal views. Illegal views. That's such a this is a bad paragraph, to be honest. There's so much wrong with it. Like, I don't know where to begin, really. I think people watching this video and have got this far through will understand what I'm trying to say when I say everyone has the right to speak their damn mind. But this paragraph, man. In On Liberty, John Stuart Mill, one of the greatest defenders of free speech, says a struggle always occurs between the competing demands of authority and liberty. He argues that we cannot have the latter without the former. We can't have liberty without authority. Yeah, vaguely true, to be fair. All that makes existence valuable to anyone depends on the enforcement of restraints upon the actions of other people. Some rules of conduct, therefore, must be imposed by law in the first place, and by opinion on many things which are not fit subjects for the operation of law. Do you know what he's saying there? He's not saying, therefore we should ban illegal views or wrong views. What he's saying is, you shouldn't put any type of legislation or force against those bad or unpalatable views. The fact you have misunderstood this explains why you write for The Guardian. It's really, really bad that you'd use On Liberty as an example to try and support your point that we should ban hate speech. He's doing the opposite in that sentence, and you can't understand that, which is unbelievable. Anyway, she goes on, unfortunately. But we're far from that. Freedom of speech is no longer a value. It has become a loophole exploited with impunity by trolls, racists, and ethnic cleansing advocates. It's not a loophole. There is no loophole in saying that you can express any ideas you want. You absolute moron. They are aided by the group I call useful liberals, that defend the death your right to say it folk, which is what I am, and what I think you all should be. The writer Mari Uehara calls them the free speech grifters, those who flog PC culture as a singularly eminent threat to the freedom of expression. That's because that's exactly what it is. A man's going to jail in Scotland because he expressed a joke. It's not illegal to tell jokes. It's unbelievable. To them, the what next argument foresees apocalyptic harm that might befall liberal values. Well, that's only because it's happened every other time in history. But, you know, don't let that stop you from trying again. It cares much less about speech we can link to violence, or which compromises the safety of others. No, we don't care about speech that we can link to violence, because usually speech that link to violence includes something along the lines of I am going to fucking kill you, or something along those lines. They're quite explicit in what they're doing. Saying to your dog, do you want to go gas the Jews, son? To your dog is quite obviously a joke and wouldn't in any way link to violence. It's absolutely disgusting you've tried to use John Stuart Mill to push your agenda. You're trying to appeal to people like me, and you've just fallen flat on your face, because quite clearly you don't understand his nuances. It's absolutely amazing. But I'm glad she's being absolutely rinsed in the comments, because there's this one comment I want to mention. In the space of a fortnight, 4 extreme right figures have been turned away at the UK border. In contrast, 400 ex-ISIS fighters managed to return to the UK with only 1 turned away. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? I'm going to leave that without comment, because I don't want to go to jail. Well, that's it really. I'm going to leave this video finishing off with the Jonathan Pye video on this whole ordeal, because I think he makes the point better than I ever could. But since this is the last from me, for this video I mean, thank you for watching, and goodbye.
And he might go to prison, okay? He was convicted because the judge believed he was inciting racial hatred. It's a fucking pug dog. He was mocking Nazis. I'll tell you where else in history you'd be convicted of a crime for teaching your dog to mock Nazis. Nazi fucking Germany. You'd have had the fucking Gestapo kicking your fucking door in. The fucking EDL isn't watching the video of a Nazi pug dog going, yeah, that portrays us in a good light. Find me one neo-Nazi who is using that YouTube clip as a recruiting tool. It's a pug mimicking their glorious leader. So yes, it is offensive if you're a fucking Nazi. What if you mock something and some twat is offended and some uptight, humourless judge doesn't get the joke? And because the Scottish legal system is so backward, you might not even get a fucking jury. You're fucked! In that instance, this judge has basically said we are not allowed to make fun of Nazis in case it's misinterpreted. The prosecution said that context and intent are irrelevant, and the judge agreed. Think about that, Tim. In order to get a conviction, they had to willfully misunderstand the context of the video. The judge basically admitted it. Yes, Tim, yes, he did repeatedly use the phrase, gas the Jews. It's the extremity of the phrase is the point. That's the joke. Funny or not, offensive or not, and without context, of course it's not funny. But in context, it's a cute little pug dog reacting to one of the worst things you could ever say. That's the fucking point. It's a joke, you fucking cunts. Where are the artists, the writers? Where are the comedians? Where are they? Why are they not up in fucking arms? You've got Ricky Gervais, David Baddiel, a handful of others, that's it basically. Everyone else is a fucking coward. The reason they don't want to stick their head above the parapet is because, you know, freedom of speech is like so unfashionable these days. What the fuck is going on when the likes of Tommy Robinson and Katie Hopkins hold the mantle of free speech? They don't own the principle. And just because some nasty people have supported this guy doesn't mean the principle is wrong. We need to reclaim that fucking fight, man. This matters. The law works in precedents. Once one person is convicted for telling a joke, that's it. And can we convict retrospectively? I mean, we have quite a lot of historical cases being tried at the moment. So, you know, why not convict John Cleese, Jerry Sadowitz? Let's dig Bill Hicks up. And if the judge has ruled that context is irrelevant, then surely even me reporting that he used the phrase gas the Jews is anti-Semitic. If context is irrelevant, I am right now inciting racial hatred according to the Scottish courts just by reporting the case. In which case, fuck it. If I'm going down in style. Hig Skyl, facts or doys have noiska, Neve of our fucking springtime for Hitler. And right, well, Tim, this is me miming being a Nazi fucking the Von Trapps. Fucking grow up, you stupid, authoritarian, humorless, tyrannical cunts.